We cancel stuff all the time. Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters, American haters, Churchill haters. You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them.
So we like to say, around blacks never relax. We also like to say, serves you right, you trusted a Jew. This is more wisdom. Which is to say, if you trust Jewish people and you get scammed or cheated or betrayed, well, you deserve it. Because Jews are notoriously not trustworthy.
Hey, welcome back. We need to talk about Nick Fuentes. So, if you're like me, you are probably a bit disturbed by how quickly he's growing. And we need to understand, why is Nick Fuentes attracting so many people to him? Why he's even being found inspiring in some cases. What does this mean, and what does it represent from a Latter-day Saint perspective? I'm going to react to some of the many things that he has said and deconstruct it or analyze it. And then I want to wrap this up and end by sharing with you a perspective on our nation's current predicament from the words of a long-forgotten modern prophet. I'm seeing a lot of Latter-day Saints getting radicalized, whether those are Latter-day Saints who are like, oh, Israel all the way, support them with everything, or it's, I'm total liberal Democrat and I think agency is premier and you should never restrict anyone's agency in any way, shape, or form, or it's, I love Nick Fuentes and giving a race lens and everything and being able to say those bad words and stuff because no one's going to tell me what to say. We are finding ourselves at a breaking point. In fact, I'm already seeing the breaks happen. And people in the political arena, people who have looked to as leaders, who have some sort of influence, they are clashing and they are fighting with each other. And we are too. And we will separate. Our nation is going to completely disintegrate. I say that because the radical left is, or has been for a while, trying to destroy America. And the only thing that has really kept America away from the entire total destruction of its Constitution, of our prosperity, of our freedoms, has been the conservatives. And that's completely going away because of the radicalization. Nick Fuentes is a major, major figure in this. I want to talk about him particularly. We can talk about Candace Owens another time, or anyone else, but let's talk about Nick Fuentes because he represents something that many people have ignored, and now you can no longer ignore it. And this is what happens when you mistreat people for so long, and people are raised with this mistreatment. Eventually, they punch back. Let's jump into some clips by Nick Fuentes to get some ideas of what I'm talking about. In a recent interview by Jack Neal on his YouTube channel with Nick Fuentes, Nick said this, and this is a pretty good barometer of the weather, the environment that brought Nick to the forefront of people's minds and why they attract to him. Let's see what he says.
In the United States, for roughly the last 10 or 15 years, it was very acceptable to attack straight white men, Christians. They were the butt of every joke. You could make fun of Southerners. You could make fun of hillbillies with Southern accents. You could make fun of white people for not having a culture, not being able to dance, attribute all the evils of the world to white people or Christians for that matter. You were not allowed to criticize racial and religious and ethnic minorities. You couldn't criticize blacks, Hispanics, Asians. Couldn't talk about mass migration. What has changed in the past year, though, is that it seems that some of the political correctness concerning the minorities has gone away. And in the past year, it seems now you're able to talk a little bit more openly about, let's say, black crime. People talk about black fatigue. You're able to talk more about illegal immigration, which is largely an Hispanic issue. You're able to talk about Indians in a derogatory way.
So he brings up a really good point there. That for a long time you couldn't talk about certain things. It was considered bigoted and bad, like you can't even try to think these things out loud because it would put a smear, a smudge on your character. You would be labeled, you'd be ostracized. You could have real, sometimes violent things done to you if you began to question the problems around you and also let's say the problems with the black community or the problems with the LGBTQ community or like he was saying, that it was It was okay to make fun of white people. It's okay to make jokes. And that's something that has personally bothered me a lot. I've hated going to movies and let's say, for example, here's a great example. In the Jumanji movie, when the first one, with the first remake one with Jack Black, where the big black football player guy, he says,
I gotta stop hanging out with white people. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me.
I don't find that stuff funny. And actually, I remember when I first heard that, I thought, would people laugh at that if they turned that around and they changed the race on that? So yeah, that's been a problem for a long time. So yeah, you have a lot of people who have been under this emotional, intellectual oppression. That's a bad thing because people don't just let that go. It builds up frustration. And now he says, yes, of course, now it's more open. You can say these bad, negative things. So what we're seeing this pendulum swing, right? When you try to force people to think in a certain way, you make them feel bad about their own skin color, about inherited traits that they have no control over, which was a really bad thing that took place in America towards black people and should never have been perpetuated or thrown back upon anyone else. Only forgiveness helps us get past all this. Now, let me give you a current example on where this pushback, this suppression of voice of people not agreeing with you, wanting to give a different opinion, how that is still being suppressed today. Nick Fuentes, specifically in the interview that we just watched, does say that's the case still with Israel and with Jewish people. So a normal pushback I receive when I talk to people about this problem is, it's like, well, what did you expect? This is just natural, right? This is what's supposed to happen when people are treated this way. As though it's a justification for this behavior, this contention that is going to do a lot of damage. We don't need to agree in order to move forward together. The founding fathers greatly disagreed on slavery. It was so abhorrent to a lot of them, and they did not want it to exist at all in America. All of them knew it contradicted their values, their principles, their Christianity. But they had to come together and move forward despite that difference, despite saying that's an evil I just can't stand. But we don't really have an option to disintegrate, to pull apart, because we will be nothing. There is no future for us if we do this. Think about that. So part of what makes Nick Fuentes so influential is that he's able to speak so clearly the things he's feeling, and there's no filter. And he's very articulate. And he's able to very easily call out BS, things that are just like tropes, things that are just fluffiness, whateverisms. He definitely has major beefs that he wants to talk about and address. And he doesn't want to deal in this in-between and do things that he finds to be ineffective. That makes someone pretty astonishing and very interesting to listen to. So let me give you an example of him talking with this fire, this vitriol, in a movement sort of way, moving people to want to follow him and say, yeah, this is how I feel. We're taking back what was taken from us because of no good reason.
Now the boomers want to say, we hear you, we're sorry, we feel bad. It's too late for that now.
And it's interesting, right? He's talking about like the boomers. So like that's another angle where it's generational hate, right? There's this hatred, there's this anger. Nick Fuentes is a leader literally running off of hate, off of anger. Far more, like, if you can believe that's Trump, sure, but like Nick Fuentes takes it to a completely different level. I think that's pretty indisputable. And his anger, his hate, his points are not just race, they're also generational. They are, you have been disenfranchised by these people who allowed it to happen, by these people who did it to you, by these economic circumstances that everyone else created, by these people above you in so much power who try to be puppeteers over you, that there's nothing you can do about it. Well, we're taking that back.
You had your chance. They're listening now because now we have a voice. This is what Groyperism is. 5 fingers curled up in a fist, punching the face of the system repeatedly. Not hands up, don't shoot. This is what we are. It's not to say we're only here to destroy, but we're going to punch through all the... We're going to punch through at 1,000,000 miles per hour all this nonsense, all the deception, all these little white lies, the omissions. We are gonna punch through it as hard as possible.
As you watch this, right, like some of you watch this and you go, well, this doesn't attract me. Like I don't want to listen to this. This guy's so angry. But if you have this underlying anger and resentment for how you've been treated, and you're not willing to let that go, you don't turn that over to Christ. Many people don't know how to do that, or many people don't realize they need to do that. Then this is going to really resonate with you.
I promise you that. Don't give me this hippie. That's what the West is. No blood guilt. I mean, that's a great speech. We all believe that. We all believe that. But the time for that kind of talk is past. What the is that even? ACLU propaganda? Tell that to them. Tell that to the Zionists. We're Christian. We believe that. Got it. What we don't have is sticking up for ourselves. We got the part where we're merciful, charitable, universalist. We don't yet have the part where we're sticking up for ourselves, taking our own side, looking out for our own interests, not being the stupid people. That's the part that we're missing.
Once again, a really impressive point, right? We've not really been sticking up for ourselves. That's absolutely true. And because of that, because as I remember growing up, I watched Christianity get shrunk so much, and eventually the idea was like, hey, don't even take your kids to church. Let them decide that when they're older if they want to go to church. Stupid things like that, where my parents' generation, people above me, did not fight back and say that's a terrible idea. What are you doing with our nation? What are you saying to us? We didn't defend our values, our beliefs. I don't think Nick is truly representative of those values and beliefs. He pretends to be, someone who does as a Catholic, but it's very obvious that this is not really the way that you go about doing this.
That's the part where I come in. And maybe I won't take it all the way to the promised land, but I'm the guy that's going to wake people up and get them to think this way. We are a team. We have to be like this. We have to be a rock. We have to be solid, impenetrable, unstoppable, cannot be infiltrated. That's how we have to be first. And we can do all that other. It's about power. This is about throwing our weight around. This is about getting done. This is about victory. It's about
the future of our nation is not about power. Those who want to manipulate and control us, for them it is about power. If we make it about power, then we are going to fail. We must make it about the blessings that come from God, such as our family, our property, our freedoms, our right to religion. Those are the things that will keep us focused on the celestial, that will keep our hearts and our minds in the right place, so we have God's blessing. We have His support, His help to win the battles that are before us. We're not going to get that. Remember the Nephites. The Lord made it very clear in the Book of Mormon that He was not a fan when the Nephites went to war and their hearts were in the wrong place. And when they did that, He did not support them. We saw that throughout the Book of Mormon, especially at the end of the Book of Mormon when they were fighting the Lamanites. Their hearts were in the wrong place. He did not support them. And it was gone, right? Like they would lose. And even in the Alma War chapters, when they started to lose the war, Moroni mourns because he's like, why are the people, struggling with iniquity again? This is the only reason why we're losing. But you have this really fascinating part in the Book of Mormon where it says that the Nephites, they were reluctant to go to war against their brethren, to send people to meet their God who were unprepared. They did not want to do this, but they did. They did go into battle. They fought. They did the necessary, difficult, and terrible thing for a righteous reason, and their hearts were in the right place, and God was on their side. He carried them through it. He helped them win battles that they should not have won. That's important to bear in mind. Where our hearts are, Satan wants your heart, and this is him grabbing for it so hard, putting flaxen cords on it, and he will turn those into chains. Now here's another video of Nick where it's going to reveal more of his lens in the world and the conclusions that it leads him to draw.
So they're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. Anyway,
I agree with him in the sense that it's not all this nuance. But his simplification on it is incorrect. So his lens is upon the features, categorizing people into groups based off of inherited traits. Which that's what a racist does. That's what someone who has serious bigotry in their heart does. Now, it's okay to notice patterns, but it's not okay to then interpret those patterns as, oh, these inherited traits, therefore these groups, this is how they behave, this is how they are. And so therefore we just do this, like he said, let's lock up the black people for the most part, tell women to shut up. Like, those are the conclusions you draw when you see certain things that fit a narrative. When you get the data that backs you up and you say, you know what, this is the source of these problems and we were never allowed to talk about it. It's time for us to talk about this. These people are causing our problems and we would just live happier if we could just, take care of them in this way, which is what every tyrant has done throughout history forever. Now, the Latter-day Saint, the gospel lens to all this is we recognize that your inherited traits are not the deciding factor. We understand that it doesn't matter your skin color, where you're born, or anything else. Your heart and mind can be transformed and changed. Your culture will also change as well when you make these changes. That will create outcomes that are good, that will treat people fairly and properly. Create peace, prosperity, and freedom. Those are the blessings of the gospel of Jesus Christ. When we live according to the gospel properly and we recognize that all of us are equally capable of the same sins and problems. Once again, he is hitting upon a pain point that people have been feeling very acutely for so long. And he's saying, you know what? We're going to embrace the lenses that they accused us of, right?
That I don't think there should be interracial marriage. I'm Catholic, so as you know, it's not a sin to be in an interracial marriage or relationship. But I am racist, I would say. I believe in the races. I believe there are white people and black people and Hispanics and Asians, and I think that it's a core part of our identity. It's who we are. And there's like this conservative reflex to say...
That's important here, what he's saying, that it is a core part of our identity. It's who we are. When you make anything in this world a part of your identity, other than you are a son or daughter of God and a disciple of Jesus Christ, it will fail.
President Russell M. Nelson has taught that if the Lord were speaking to us directly, the first thing he would make sure we understand is our true identity. We are children of God, children of the covenant, and disciples of Jesus Christ. Any other designation will ultimately let us down.
Recognize that. Any other designation will let us down. And not only let us down, it will deceive us. It will lead us down the wrong path. Now let me pause real fast and just say, if you like what you're hearing so far, please share this video with someone and don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell. If you don't hit that notification bell in this app to get a notification when these videos come out, you're not going to see them. And you're going to wait on YouTube's algorithm, which, how much do you trust YouTube, to put this in front of you to watch. Thank you so much for watching so far. Let's get into the rest of the video. Let's keep watching what Nick is saying now.
We're colorblind. Race doesn't mean anything. And, Pat Buchanan said this. He said, it's not everything, but it isn't nothing. And I definitely lean more towards the latter, which is it really is a core part of who we are. Our culture,
That's so sad. You think that your skin color is part of your culture and core part of who you are.
Our heritage, our ancestors, our customs, all of it. It's not that I don't think that two people can fall in love from different races. Of course they can. And they have throughout history. And the races have mixed throughout history and assimilated. But for someone like myself, I always say on my show, it's just my value. I want to marry someone that looks like me, that comes from a similar background, because I want my kids to look like me. I want my grandkids to look like me.
But are you, sorry, I just want to make sure, did you say I'm a racialist or I'm a racist?
For a long time, I would say I'm racialist. Now I just say I'm racist.
Okay, so when you say you're racist, because these definitions get changed around.
So I just think it's ridiculous. I can hear inspiring music in the background. So dumb that this is considered inspiring to people. Oh.
racist, anti-Semitism gets expanded. What do you mean when you say I'm a racist? Because I think most people watching this would go, if you are a racist in the traditional sense of the term, why are you on this podcast, right? Wouldn't you just go, you know what, Candace is black and therefore I don't want to speak to her.
Right.
Certainly not going onto your show and saying, why won't Candace have me on? That doesn't really seem to line up with the traditional sense of the idea of racist. So
yeah, and I'm using it. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek. I mean, for the purpose of understanding, I'd say my views are I'm a racialist. But I do think that we need to deconstruct this idea of racism in the sense that, look, you're black, I'm white. It is what it is. For my entire life, people have been walking around in eggshells about the subject of race, about white people being racist. Can I say this? Can I say that? Can I have this opinion? And me, I'm sort of, Gavin McInnes said it like this.
Once again, he's appealing to that repressed anger from people mistreating you and mislabeling you.
He said, you're kind of post-racist. You're sort of after this craze where everything was racist. It's sort of this recognition that we live in a heavily racial world. And, look, sometimes we have racist feelings. Racist feelings like I want to live in a white neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to live in a black neighborhood. If they're all like you, obviously it'd be a different story. But when we think of a black neighborhood, we know what that means.
Gross generalizations. So now let's look at what someone else has to say in regards to why they believe Nick Fuentes is growing. And I'll give you, I think, kind of my concluding answer to all this. This is from News Nation just 2 weeks ago.
You have to understand the reason that a lot of people are attracted to that nonsense and that noise and all the hatred and all the mess that he puts out there every single day is that there are a lot of people that literally just have no hope. You have to think about all...
Interesting. It says there are people who just have no hope. That is very typical of if you just want to put it in political terms, of revolutionaries, of people who feel like they have no hope. They are at the bottom rung and they need someone who will give them hope. It's a very easy way to manipulate people. Those are people who are pretty easy to manipulate. This is a sort of angry revolution, and Nick Fuentes is literally taking advantage. His whole scheme here is taking advantage of the vulnerable people who feel displaced, let down by Trump, let down by the world in general. He has found a way to say, like, hey, this is how we're going to do it, right? This very same tactic has been done many times over towards all these disenfranchised or actually more emotionally incompetent or abused or sad individuals on the left-hand side to turn them into social justice warriors. Well, this is the woke right now. This is the people who are like, you know what? Pendulum swinging back, we're punching back. He says here that these are people without hope. And he brings up economic reasons, political discussion reasons, and I would add in there everything we've talked about before where you get labeled things for just trying to understand the world around you. But here's what I think as a Latter-day Saint. It's not that they have no hope. I mean, they can feel hopeless, sure. But it is that they were left in their life with a big gaping hole. They lacked a solid foundation that only God and the gospel of Jesus Christ can give them. This is the same trend, like I said, has been happening for well over a decade now that we saw take place on the left over and over and over again. You got the social justice warriors. It is the exact same scenario, just on the other side of the political aisle. Parents let down their children by not giving them a solid foundation in Christ. They also let down their children by not giving them a culture by which that could be fostered, by allowing us to be silenced, which when people see that, they are then convinced that, okay, maybe this religious aspect is important, but it's so repressed that maybe I'll abandon it and I'm going to go for anger, or better yet, let me take this anger and use it to beat up the people who didn't let me enjoy it properly as a child because my parents couldn't or they didn't have the courage to, right? It's conflict. It's if you look at the Marxist theory, it is Marxist theory because it's the critical theory, which creates a dichotomy of people. You are either the oppressor or the oppressed. For Nick Fuentes and for people who follow him, they have felt like, let's say when it comes to races, towards black people, Black people have been oppressing us because when they get into the political system, they vote for things that and they say we can't say certain words. They call us racist when we're not, right? So like that, in that way, they create this idea that, okay, I'm an oppressed person. You have been oppressing me with the power socially, politically that you've been wielding. Or the Jews, the power they've been wielding economically and politically, geopolitics, whatever it is, this dichotomy, and this is how Satan gets to us. And he gets us to believe there is a dichotomy. There is no ground for discussion and for finding that it is a problem of the heart as opposed to a problem of innate characteristics or gross generalizations of groups. So let's break this down into its most fundamental parts. We are talking about enmity. Enmity, which is defined as hatred toward, hostility to, or a state of opposition. Satan wants us to have this state of opposition, this hostility towards other people, towards the Church of Jesus Christ, for not supporting our political stances or ideas better, right? For looking too liberal or looking too conservative, for the brethren giving policies that we don't agree with, having enmity in our heart towards the Lord's apostles and prophets, towards our bishop, towards our family, towards our grandparents, our parents, towards other races or groups. That's what Satan wants. And enmity comes from pride. So when we are hurt, when we genuinely are suffering from mistreatment for all this time, by being mislabeled, right, or mistreated, when we don't forgive and we hold on to that, that comes from pride. And holding on to that leads us to have enmity. Here are the words of a prophet. Now, these are being spoken, read aloud by Gordon B. Hinckley, who was just a member of the first presidency at the time. But this was written by Ezra Taft Benson. He had Gordon B. Hinckley read it because he was not able to at the time. But this is President Ezra Taft Benson's talk called Beware of Pride. And it is one of the most incredible talks that we really need to revisit today. But let's just watch this very small clip.
Pride is a very misunderstood sin, and many are sinning in ignorance. In the scriptures, there is no such thing as righteous pride. It is always considered a sin. Therefore, no matter how the world uses the term, we must understand how God uses the term, so we can understand the language of Holy Writ and profit thereby. Most of us think of pride as self-centeredness, conceit, boastfulness, arrogance, or haughtiness. All of these are elements of the sin, but the heart or core is still missing. The central feature of pride is enmity. Enmity toward God and enmity toward our fellow men. Enmity means hatred toward, hostility to, or a state of opposition. It is the power by which Satan wishes to reign over us.
It is the power by which Satan wishes to rule over us. This past Sunday, I gave the 5th Sunday lesson. And at one point in the lesson, we talked about how we sometimes will hold on to anger or hurt in our heart and will not forgive until we see someone else change or until something else happens, and then we will do so. And this one lady raised her hand. I won't say her name, but she said something very wonderful, very beautiful. She basically said that we will try to look to the world for validation for our feelings, for what we feel, for the hurt or what we've gone through. But that's not going to happen. But we can turn to Christ for that validation. And I agreed with her. I said, yes, we can turn to Christ, who will help us work through these feelings. He will console us. He will hear our feelings. He will feel them, and he will give us healing and allow us to forgive and move on. If we want to get rid of this enmity, we must forgive. The gospel of Jesus Christ is what we need because it encourages us to live as the Savior would live, to do as he would do, We don't need to perfectly agree, not at all. But we must not let Satan divide us and shatter us, or we will become the broken tribes like the Nephite nation was when the chief judge was murdered on the judgment seat, and everyone broke into tribes, and the whole nation just became disintegrated. We want to avoid that, and that is a potential future that's coming. And I want us to avoid that. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for all of your support. If you want to get more content like this, please do me a favor, share this with more people. The more people who see this and can comment, the more we can reach. We are the movement that is going to save our liberties, our freedoms, and our land in the last days. We are the ones who will not let anger and enmity and hatred rule our hearts, but rather Christ. Live free until next time.